it won't be 100%, 100%. Every little nuance here will be workshop. I'll still be talking at you a little bit more than you would like, but so I want to set the stage here for, I need help. I need some additional help. That's one thing that's becoming even more apparent, and we have amazing ideas, amazing people in this room to do that. So I want to transfer some responsibilities away from the stuff that I'm doing, stay a little bit more strategic, and then lean on some individuals like your regional supervisors and each of you. And then there will be a little bit of adjustment to as we move forward here in the next month or so is updating some job descriptions around where like responsibilities, but mostly this is about help and messaging and giving you hopefully more immediate resources and stuff like that. So several years ago, before I moved into the membership only spot here in the state office, regional supervisors handled a good bit of the membership work. The biggest difference is I'm going to be a lot more engaged than where we were before. So, but your regional supervisors are going to be definitely much more engaged in terms of driving what these plans look like, communicating these plans, working with each of you to stay on brand, working with you to do training, working with you to keep aligned with county program, and all these things are heading in that direction already. So it's not a whole lot different than where we've been, other than just gives that group of Connie and Danielle a little bit more oversight and being able to take what they're hearing from you and maybe put it more into action a little bit quicker than always having to run everything through me, so to speak. But so I look for big things there in terms of that. So, and then ultimately, I'm hoping that this clarifies, and then also it's an accountability thing for all of us in terms of where we're at for membership responsibilities. On the flip side of that, for organization directors, again, we'll adjust this a little bit in the OD job descriptions, but it's about implementing the membership plan, communicating and executing in your OD area what the expectations and needs are, executing training programs for county office staff and volunteers. Again, that's in with regional supervisors. We'll still help and assist along that, but for those of you that's been around a while, when we did membership training and that kind of stuff, that was led by the regions, starting with the regional supervisors, and then the ODs helped with that, and then we penciled in or included state staff as needed along the way. So that's kind of what our model is looking like here as we move forward. So brand standards. Again, there's some flexibility there, but if you're using wild colors on the logos and stuff like that, we're going to call you on it. I mean, I hate to say that, but we're going to call you on that. We've got to stay on our brand standards there a little bit. So you might hear from us on that. So just stay on brand standards as much as possible. And then aligning that county programming again, which is great. And then program reporting or reporting as far as that goes when we need that along the way. So just a couple of responsibility changes here. Supervisors, ODs, again, we'll blend that into OD and regional supervisor job descriptions, but the most part there, it's about clarity, accountability, and those kind of things. Now let's talk this summer. So again, this is really where the next several months we'll talk about where we're trying to head here, and then in my head we will focus on certain segments of our membership at different times. This come out of some of the discussions we had. Can we focus on farmers at this particular time? Can we focus on total? Where do we need to focus? So that'll be part of what we're going to try to do here. Obviously, we'd like to get total gain across the state, but we know that also farmers are still our core, and that's going to be where we're driving towards. And then, as I mentioned earlier, as we launch that new strategic plan, there's pieces in there with the clarity on that next gen, which also fall into that farmer category, and then also those in agri-power. So this question over here about farm, we actually brought that being farm in the competitive advantage. I think it's a good question. Austin had a fantastic answer on that, and we talked to Morgan Myers, who's been working with us on that, because it's like, oh gosh, we need like multiple value propositions, and that's not necessarily the case. But what I do know is because of your input on that in terms of this farm producer, agriculturalist, where we need to be in terms of terminology, because words matter. Words really matter. Images matter. We found that in our data across the street. Just today, Kurt said, that, data drives everything. You can have your personal opinion, but still data, that drives the day. And ab libbing is for amateurs. So using that data is super, super important. So, we will focus on that farmer again. We still will let counties decide how they want to do that. The one thing we won't do this year is, I thought I heard it loud and clear that growth plan for counties was a little bit more difficult. So, we want that to be a little bit more simple goals in terms of that. We won't have a worksheet for them. We will provide each of you that worksheet just so you can think through that before you meet with your county leaders in terms of how you're gonna plan your campaign. So you have some thought process and planning. We will provide that around those. Again, it's all about that member journey and where people fit into that. As far as projections, for our fiscal year, of course, it's our next biggest time. It's for internally, it's not really something we broadcast externally. We mostly talk about our membership year numbers, but right now we're projecting just a little over 64,000. Our goal is 68,140. So we really want to drive towards that 68,140. This monthly goal concept, and again, we're going to test it, but our intent behind this is when it comes to Farm Bureau, we have this longer term goal out here, and then we constantly are doing all these programs and activities and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say we're not thinking about membership, because you're doing it every day. You're blending into your programs. Just, can we do it on a monthly basis where we have a little bit more focus and urgency around a monthly type goal? So that gets us ultimately to the bigger goal. As we start this, I don't expect probably everyone to hit those monthly goals from the beginning, and because again, when they're on total, but if we can collectively get to that 68,140, it leads us to this bigger number in December 31st. That's part of the nationwide sponsor plan, which that number is around 69,000 something. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, Tim. That's not fair to ask, but it's somewhere around 69,000. But that has a big incentive on the other side of that. So how do we get there? If we don't get there on fiscal year, we certainly won't get there for that number, but it means about $500,000 to the organization if we actually hit that goal. So it's pretty big, pretty huge in terms of hitting that goal. As far as prospecting right now, I'm not gonna hit anything on that, because there is a workshopy type session here in a little bit, but the main thing I want to hold up, and again, in the spirit of flexibility, giving counties choice, thought that Adam put together a pretty good package that I think went out last week that give you options of, here's the standard, has OFBF address, here's the standard, like we can work and get your county address on there. And then the other one is using the toolkit, and then the other ones is, hey, whatever you want to do. But the biggest thing is, because we want to know if they work, don't work, is reportability, especially on 3 and 4, options 3 and 4. So we want to give you flexibility. You guys are out there on the front lines, again, flexibility for that, but still need to know what's going on in terms of accountability. Flexibility doesn't mean, hey, I'm not going to have a membership campaign. I'm not going to do nothing. I'm not going to worry about getting my goal. It doesn't mean that. There's still accountability built on that, but it's flexibility to be able to do what you need. I think, Roy, what did you say? Unleash the something. I don't know. Maybe it was the hounds or the dogs or something. Let counties do what they do best in terms of figuring that part out. So for the most part, that is our goal, but we do need to know and want to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, so then we can judge where we're at. Hopefully you've seen a change here in that postcard in terms of how we're messaging. It still gets to the value pillars, but it has a little bit, I think a little bit better feel for maybe what you guys were asking in terms of really talking about these bigger picture things around the value about real pieces. So I'm hoping that you're seeing that. So we're learning, and we'll continue to learn. So the tough part is, and we got feedback last year, it's like, okay, we started down this one path and you changed something. And we started down this path, we changed something, which I get that. And, and I think I've told a few of you, our intent for changing was your feedback and pivoting, based on what's working, what's not, leaning into those things that are working and putting our resources to the places that we think that do work based on your feedback. But I also understand that when we do that, and we know the troubles of Google, and we're gonna try to get that a little bit better this year. If you go back to my email and I've changed something, if you don't have access to that anymore, if it's different, I get all of that. So we'll try to be better. So one thing we're gonna try to do is we will have a linked sheet, but so we'll be sending out the link sheet along the way based on your feedback on the materials and stuff you need. So if we change something and you're always looking for that email that has the link sheet in it, that link sheet location is not going to change. The documents in there potentially might, but you're always going to be able to go back to that location, that email, and get those resources, or at least that's our intent as we see it right now. Retention, retention is super, super important, and we're going to continue to do all kinds of activities on the statewide level, whether it's through Feathers, social, email, our invoicing program. Just a little bit back to this morning, we cannot renew ourselves. The data says we cannot renew ourselves into gain, so new members are still extremely important part of that. And I may have group members that the group member may be somewhere else in here, but I'll throw groups. Groups might be something we focus on here, or you guys may consider focusing on here during the summer months. We'd love to see that grow by 5% up to get us up over 4,000 individuals enrolled in groups. But it's only about a 200 member lift across the state. So to even that 5% gain between now and really March 31st, but if we concentrate in the summer on some of that 5% gain, 200, again, it's a big number, but again, it's not a huge number in terms of getting a 5% gain in that area. Back to retention, I know that several of you have your own renewal techniques and stuff like that. Again, this year, I don't want to get in the way of that. So, but I want to find a way for us to track, and I don't have a solution for that. That's one of those things that is out here yet that we don't have a solution. But in terms of being it, if you're going to send a said postcard or whatever the case may be, we're going to try to find some way for you to bulk upload your list of those you're sending, so you can put on there that this went out, and put a note in there that shows a couple bullet points on what you're actually delivered on. So ultimately, our biggest thing is the 60-day window. And the only reason we say that is because you're already paying for all of our invoicing and all that kind of stuff. So that's the one reason why we talk about trying to stay out of that 60-day window. But I also know in March, it's almost impossible to do that. So again, we want to have some flexibility. I know early birds, you can do early birds, but you can't, if you got a dues increase, something like that, you can't really do, because of the way the system's designed, you can't do an true early bird promotion anymore that has a $110 membership instead of $120. The system won't allow it at this point in time, but you can still do, if you want to do early birds. If you think that that's a good way to go, you can obviously figure out a way to do some early bird type stuff. It just can't come off the price. So, or if you do, it's got to be out of county budget in terms of what that might be. Back to the prospecting, I'll go back to the prospecting and that DTN and flexibility there. We did give you an opportunity to get quarter per mailing, so we didn't want to give each county $100 because like Wayne County has like 9,000. I'm joking, but it's like it's like 900 or let's call it 700. I don't know, what'd you say it was? 650, and then others might have 40 in their county, so it just makes more sense to do it a per piece. The biggest thing is there, again, it's on you guys to like send us back an invoice, which was all listed in that. So hopefully that is a help, and it probably won't cover your complete cost, but at least we'll start you down the path. Questions?
Well, can I ask a question about the 60-day window? So we have to keep firm to that 60-day window in regards to going after win backs and what we do in our local office.
So it's just current members. So just somebody that's in the invoicing.
Not when, let me see if we went back up.
Yeah, so, I don't know, let's talk. We just, what my preference would be, but again, I want flexibility here, you guys know well, but you're already paying for it. I would love not to see one of those county invoices go during that time, but if you wanna send, if you're sending a postcard to reinforce, you know, local programming activities in that 60-day window to get people to pay that on that invoice, I personally don't have a problem with that. It's just when you dump another invoice in that 60-day window on top of the invoice that we sent, it just causes a little bit of confusion for that. Does that answer that?
It does, I just, when I analyzed my campaign and when we came down to the end to do, I didn't do any of that until February. I stuck for the 60 days and I didn't start any of that until late February. And I can see a noticeable difference in
Yeah.
who's on my renewal list, how many I got in, and the changes it made to my total gain at the end of the day because I didn't do. And that's.
And did you always do that in the, we finished,
Monthly. Remember,
and did you do it? Did you? So you did it monthly,
we did it. Volunteer campaign began in November. We sent a follow-up. From our office, incentivizing renews, give a $10 gas card, $10 Amazon card, whatever. Because of the way we were told to follow up with those folks and the way we had done it in the past, we didn't do any of that to go past the 60-day windows. We didn't interfere with it.
yeah,
And so I can only say what I saw within my 4 counties. It's not reflective of everyone else. That's why I'm asking to clarify.
no, that's great, and we got that feedback, so. Did you have a thought there?
No, I-
My,
Sorry. I got nothing.
dang.
Sorry.
I don't have a problem with those kind of postcards or whatever. Where we get a little bit, where it causes a lot more confusion is when I'll take the 45 days between February 15th to March 31st off the table. That's like, I'm gonna say that's free for all almost, okay? I'm gonna we're gonna unleash the hounds or whatever. So, but with no restrictions really, even though it probably, you know, but the trickster, during that 60-day window when we just delivered them, that is problematic. But if you're sending a postcard that says, hey, joined by whatever inside that window, I don't have a problem with that at all. So last year I didn't do it somehow was not really my intent to, stifle that as much as possible, but I do know we wanted to do some testing, so we did learn, right? So we did learn, so, and that county touch is important, so. So inside the 60-day window throughout any time the year, I don't really like tricksters because it's mostly about confusing that person when they're getting an invoice from OFBF actually getting from you, because it looks like it's coming from you, and then you're putting another one right on top of them. That's coming from the county office. That's a actual invoice. You send some kind of a letter or some kind of postcard that supports all of that during that time frame or 60-day window throughout the year, no problem at all.
Document. Be like those mailings that you guys do are going out, just so, I know it's on a calendar somewhere, but.
Yeah, I think it's linked on the current one now, but we'll make sure if it's not, we'll make sure that that's linked on that document. So now you're gonna drive that with Mandy and Danielle here later today in terms of materials too, a little bit, so. What you want there, we got some insight on that, but the link document, I'm hoping that helps. Instead of sending individual documents out, we'll send the link to the link document. And then if that changes for whatever reason along the way, Nick.
Then the link of those documents or at least type after would be the date that it was last updated.
Yeah.
And then if we're not to use it, because it needs to be updated, maybe you haven't just got to it yet, which we've got a lot of stuff to do, but it's just thinking like if something's just not ready.
Yep.
In big bold, they do not use or contact.
Yep.
You or Danielle, or Connie, or whoever would be helpful. I know we printed something this past campaign that waited 2 days. It would have been different.
Just delete it out there.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Just unlink it or something.
Just get rid of it.
Yeah, it's much easier said than done, so. No, that's fantastic. Like I said, tell you yesterday I deleted, because I know search function's big for all of you, so we recognize that. So, you know, to me, in my head, again, that's why this feedback is so good and we want to react to it, right? So I deleted out, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years worth of campaign stuff already. Those folders are gone. So 24 is in there. Cause I still want to grab some of that stuff but that's in there, but eventually I'd even like to kill that whole file. So you can't see that in Google Drive at all. So, and we're moving it, not even into mine, we're moving it actually into another drive outside of Google completely. So to help with that. So we recognize that Google's a fun jungle. And no emphasis on fun.
I love Google.
I love it from a collaboration standpoint and all that kind of stuff, but man, if you don't delete stuff out of it, it causes lots of trouble.
Yeah, lots of warnings that you're gonna stop reading emails.
Yeah. Other questions? Just a little bit on value delivery and program alignment. So, Pat did a really good job across the street talking about where we're headed here in terms of, these pieces. So again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time because we just did this with, some all staff and you guys have heard this a lot, but again, I'm coming to realize that, you know, I might be tired of talking about it, but some of you still may be relatively newish or it gets in the mix of all of the noise of all of our emails, but this is our year for this year. As you know, January, February was technology, March, April was succession planning, and right now out in the market, we have direct marketing. Next month is or July, August is gonna be CAUV. So, and I think might have been a Buckeye OD meeting. Somebody talked about doing some things on the history of CAUV and all of those kind of things that would be made available. This here is gonna be a CAV mega pack resource that has history, details, all that kind of stuff throughout that magazine. So I think that is gonna be an amazing tool for you as we move forward. That'll have all those things about CUV, our history and all that kind of stuff. So pretty excited about that one. That's a pretty big lift. Sounds like from that team, communication team, and then energy, which will include carbon markets and some other exciting new things that we're trying to deploy there. That'll be similar to some of our other resources like landowner toolkit and trucker guide, and now this what's the proper name for that, Leah? Small business farm, so I don't know what it is, but small business food, I can't. But so I don't know if Leah got a shout out on that thing yet or not, but if not, she should, because that dude. That was like, I don't know, how long you been here? So she's done it like 11 months, she's worked on that or something like that, it seems like. But it's gonna be fantastic. We did look at and talked about printing. We could organize some kind of a printing thing on that, but we're a little ouchy, I wouldn't say ouchy, but that thing can change in a hurry. So it's the same thing. You don't want to print those. And I know that our current quote is like $6 a piece or something like that for 1,000 of them. So it's big dollars in a hurry. So I don't know if anybody else has tried to print those or not.
Orders right now, if Buckeye Region would like me to share, I'm happy to share. I can get, depending on the amount, for 22 a book, 2,500, and if I get over 3,000, they drop down to 404, down to 3 something. So
That's your, what Leah just said.
I just said, I would practice that with a lot of the links and then having it shortened down into bit.ly. So people want to use those links, and can't use those in the print version. I would also like to say that it would be a huge feeling if we're kind of talking about, I don't know if you guys know what the back book is, but it's kind of like in the walkable type book, they jump paper in the back because something changed. We already have changes coming, so I mean, the HACCP changed recently, that we have to do. Nothing huge that we need to change our text for, but pages. More of a living document, so I would caution against printing a ton because like the landowner. It changes, a lot of change, so just use a caution I wanted to.
Yeah, that's, I know our members want that automatic satisfaction. Adam wants, he would love for us to print some, but man, it just changes just almost on a whim. So we are working on trying to make, we know the downloading is a little bit suspect, we call it. So from the website, so we are working on a solution for that to make that a little bit easier. So Pat,
2 days that you have a flyer now that promotes it in general. And on the website, you can download chapters, so you know you're talking to some. Few people who would be interested in all of that. They're gonna be selling 1 or 2 things that might be pertinent to a chapter, if you remember.
And they can always, you can always send them my way. Even the landowner will get. People don't like. Is what I learned right here.
Is there some language within those bookings that maybe say that could change often or something like that? 'Cause I have a lot of requests for printed. There's a lot of old, aren't gonna download nothing.
I'm with that.
We are-
Cottage
It's not
the next Tuesday night. 2 copies. But I think it needs to say somewhere. That something can change.
Yeah.
Probably it's a very lot of. People read the entire thing. Also, I think. Throughout the entire thing that this is not, you need to go on. Throughout the right, no matter what. It's a good starting point, you need to go and look at it.
Oh, the third thing on the website is a flip book, right? So you can have it kind of digitally flip like a magazine, you know, that makes it pretty easy on screen view.
On a cell phone, that's good. They need to be on a phone.
so, okay, great discussion there. Great resource, great resources, and, we've seen a lot of uptick in those, the use of those. And then, obviously, energy, risk management, or, safety and risk as rounds out the year. So we know that we have these new resources. The one piece I want to say here, no, I'm not gonna get into that. No, that's gonna come later on terms of what this stuff's gonna look like and Mandy and Danielle's and I'll add in there if I need to. So, and then, just continuing down this this path on these value added pillars. I mean, we've seen lots of traction on that. I want to commend all of you. The amazing stuff that I see come across my desk or my email that you're out there doing that we're sharing, and have shared have been great. We are going to, I don't think we've announced this, to the ODs yet or not, but this month here will mark our first month. We are going to have a president's e-letter. It's going to call the County Connection Leadership Loop. So it'll be an electronic version of an old order mail, which each department, depending on what's going on, the intent is to deliver it the last Friday of every month. So then that president can take it, working with you on board notices, or take it to their board meetings and say, hey, here's the things that are going on that might affect you. It's supposed to be, our plan is for it to be a little bit more inside baseball and not stuff that actually is already on a website or something like that, other than we will continue to share county program ideas, because it seemed like that had a lot of traction in the membership newsletter. So really excited about that. All departments participating. Sometimes they won't. We're going to put like a reminders section, which will have upcoming deadlines and that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a fantastic resource, but our plan is to deliver it once a month, roughly the last Friday of the month. December's, November's, and that kind of stuff complicate things, but for the most part. So I think that's just another add-on to the stuff that public policy is starting to do. Some of their stuff will probably flow into this as well in terms of that update. So anyway, just keep up the great work. You guys are doing amazing work. The stuff that I'm seeing that's coming out of county farm bureaus in terms of that value added stuff it's great. Thank you so much. All right, with that, I'm going to kick it to Adam here just to kind of give a big picture view again of stuff that we're doing from a marketing tactic. So you have a full, again, talked about some of this stuff, a little bit more detail, but give it to Adam here to, kick this around.
Thank you. All right, so like Paul said, just want to level set on a few things, and first, I'm just gonna kind of dive into just a refresher on invoice and ID cards, how often that is sent out. I know we're all aware of this. We have the document which we'll link in the one sheet Paul was referring to. So at the end of the day, a member could receive up to 8 interactions from us from a renewal standpoint. So e-invoice, 60 days out, 30 days out, 3 days before they expire, you expire in 1 day, and then guess what? You're expired. So that will exhaust all the e-invoices. Then we transition to paper. So those are 45 days out, 15 days out, and then 15 days once they're expired. And then that's when they get kicked to the call center. Invoices themselves, they're very county branded. So it has county office address, county farm bureau names, branding on there. So it really looks like it's coming from a county office. Like I said, the invoice planner, we will have linked in there as well. ID cards, similar fashion, return address, and the address on the actual ID cards is county office addresses and phone numbers. And then just a reminder, data for ID cards is pulled every Tuesday morning. So every Tuesday morning, it pulls the prior week basically of members that either joined new or renewed. And then they would receive their ID cards within 7 to 10 business days of that data pull on Tuesday. And then just a quick shameless plug on auto renew. We're still kind of trucking along on that. 3,770 members as of yesterday have enrolled in auto renew. Just make sure we're continuing to ask members who are on the phone. So, making sure county office staff is always asking that question when they're processing memberships over the phone, if they would like to enroll in auto renew. It's just a simple checkbox that'll save their card and automatically enroll them. And like we always talk about, the more members we can get in this program, the less invoices we have to send out, the higher retention rate in theory we're going to have. Yeah, we're still going to have declined credit cards, which everybody has seen that list before. It is getting smaller. It's peaks and valleys, obviously, depending on how many are due that month. And we are also in conversations with IT to kind of better enhance the technology on the back end to get ahead of these decline cards and have them updated automatically. There is technology out there. Our system doesn't right now support it, but that could be something down the road which will help us drastically in cutting down of those decline numbers. Yeah.
This was brought up at a board meeting and I feel like it's been brought up here, so I just wondered, some of my board members they're like younger and they're like, I don't need to receive a physical ID card if it was just sent to me electronically. And they wondered if, cause it's a cost, they just wondered if OFBS ever looked into that.
We have, we've talked about it a lot and Paul can relate to that. So long-term, short-term, probably more longer term, that is a direction we want to go. Understanding there's people on that side, but also people on the opposite side that want to have that physical card. So I think once we get to a point where CRM can support that, it'll be an option, but we have heard that and it would be a significant cost savings. So while I don't have an exact timeline, it is on our short list of something to continue to explore. Good
Would
question.
that look like something people could opt in or opt out?
Correct. Yeah. Do you want a physical card or do you want a digital card? Absolutely.
Any possibility on movement of the 15 days out in March? That if we backed up a little bit, maybe 21 days out, just thinking that we're all experiencing probably some mailing issues in our counties with USPS. And just thinking that may not reach until towards the end of the month, they send it in. And then they don't get counted, right? They get past the April 1st and then they renewed, but they never really counted there. And I'm just wondering if we back for March, that's the end of our campaign, we're able to back that particular one up.
I mean,
Consideration by you.
the 45-day one.
No, the 15.
Well, hey, keep in mind, that's going to be the third invoice too. So they would have already gotten 2 invoices prior. So
Late invoice for the.
yeah, he's talking about the late.
No. Second invoice.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. Yes, to answer your question, very long-winded way, yeah, these numbers, it's me pressing buttons to pull data and send it off. So if we need to adjust specifically for that month, absolutely.
Because the other conversation we all have, we've got volunteers that don't want to call those people because they're not due yet.
Mhm.
But yes, the end of the campaign, we don't get them in. And I'm just thinking if there's a way for us to help alleviate that a little bit to keep those people in, that might be one way to back it up a little bit, plus dealing with the mailing issues we have. Because
Yep.
We've got, like, and you were saying, they just got some return mail from January.
Mhm.
It should have been to her by now, so, we're just all different challenges with that, so.
For. Say it again. Yeah.
So marches forward,
What do you mean for?
bill all of them earlier.
In February, I mean, yeah, the March people get their first invoice, that's pulled in February, so you're still getting the interaction, but I think you're talking about that middle one.
Yeah, middle,
The middle one, yeah. Any other questions on this one specifically? So I was transitioning a little bit, so let's talk about a lot of what we're doing. It's a lot of tactics we're doing. I debated throwing all these numbers up here, but I want to really just talk about some of the tactics and what we're learning. Like, what are some of the outcomes? Like, we know what we're doing, it's great, but what are some of the results? What are we learning? And are we adjusting where we need to? So from our digital marketing standpoint, this data is from basically last year, so January through December. And these are all the different campaigns that we run for our digital ads. So website retargeting, that's our biggest winner right now. That's where we have adjusted to put the most of our dollars, just because we get the most views, the most clicks, and you can see the most successes. And a conversion, that person has to actually click on that ad, go to the page we direct them, and then go through the join process all in one motion. So it's not like they clicked on an ad and then they'll join a few days later and count that. They actually join through that ad. So that's why we're so gung ho on getting people to our website. The more people we get to the website, we can then retarget with these digital ads. And that's what we're learning. That's where we're getting the most value for our digital spends right now. Email mapping, we use this a lot for win backs. We used it for DTN. We use it for upcoming renewals. So we can supply email addresses through the system and they can target, depending on what group it is, specific ads. We see good success with those conversions. And then it starts to fall off, which is understandable. So search keyword, Feather, who we work with for this, they have about 50 key agriculture and farming terms that we provided them. Anybody who searches Google for those terms, we can then capture and then serve ads to them. So that is simply, we want people to click. So those people obviously fall somewhere within agriculture because they're searching for certain terms, up to 50 terms, CAUV, line fence, you name it, it's going to be in that list. And then lookalike audience, they just take kind of a snapshot of their database and have it match what a traditional typical Farm Bureau member would look like from a demographic standpoint. We have taken some dollars away from lookalike just because you can see we get great views, but we don't get a lot of clicks. We get more clicks with our search keywords. So just little tweaks like that, which may not seem like a lot, but anywhere we can get more clicks from these ads, that's what we want to do, because then we can get them into the nurturing basically process and get them retargeted because they visited our website. Geofencing, the farm science review I talked about, and obviously that digital fence we put around the event, we continue to do that. 20,000 views, I think that cost us like $150. I don't expect anybody to buy a membership from that. If they click, that's absolutely what we want them to do. So those people can now get retargeted. And then the geofencing, I think I may have talked about this last staff meeting that we just started doing for big box stores around the state. We can do 10 per campaign. So we did certain Tractor Supplies, Rural Kings, implement dealers. And as of this week, we're up to 53,000 views and 101 clicks. Again, a very inexpensive campaign. So this is kind of the back end data that we look at just to make sure that we're putting the dollars in the right spot. So we're just not doing digital marketing to say, hey, we're doing digital marketing, it's going well. It is going well, but looking at this type of data is going to make sure that we're continuing to allocate the budget for the right tactics.
Are you able to do that for events too? Or is it just have to be locations? I'm thinking like the National Tractor Pulls.
You can.
Never on the tractor.
Yep. Katie Sher came to me last weekend because she was at FFA convention and we didn't think about that. And we easily got that put together. So we geofenced the FFA convention. So any type of events, really anything with coordinates, which is anything, can be geofenced.
Brian does it on the farm concert. If he did it in Ohio at Ayers Farm, you could pull it around there.
You could.
For like county fairs.
I was working with HVP producer.
Yep.
And they said they would even come to the county fair.
Yep. I mean, the only thing you have to be careful of, which we have to be careful with farm science, because it's so close to a major highway. You don't want to have it too close there, because then you're going to be picking up every random Joe driving by. You at least want to have it somewhat truncated, but events are absolutely an option. Yeah.
So how would we be, if a county farm bureau wanted to do it for 100, might be a good investment with their county fair, but that would be us to handle personally, or could we go through?
That's a great question. We've never been asked that. I mean, there's other companies besides Feather that does that, that you could research locally. I don't know if we'd be able to handle, Feather could handle an event for everyone. That's something I can definitely ask though. But there's a number of companies that Dan uses a different company for HBP. They've done some geofencing efforts, so, I can look into that, Lindsay, with Feather.
Was there a way that like we could send you like potential places that we would like to see geofence and then you see if you can make it happen? Cause I'm even thinking like your equipment being.
You could. So with this first go around, like I said, it's maxed out of 10. I just went to go, I might pick 10 locations around the state. I mean, not every county obviously had it, but I tried to at least buckshot around the state. So if there's key locations that drive a lot of traffic, which I don't know, obviously, if I'm not from that county, absolutely pass it along to me. Good question. All right, and then just kind of drilling down on some of the actual ads. So these are 3 ads that we basically tested in the 8-county pilot region. And each of them ran for 2 months, and each of them were a different topic. And we learned some pretty insightful, at least what I thought was some pretty insightful information as far as which ads performed, which ads were engaging, and which ads, maybe missed the mark. So our first one was labor. The odd thing about this one, it didn't even spend the full budget. It only spent 47% of the budget over those 2 months, had 32,000 views and 192 clicks. So that was us out of the gate. Okay, so now we move to technology. And these don't run the same time, these all run separately. So then technology, that one spent the full budget, so that was good. Views increased almost 60,000 and our clicks increased to 225. The one we have currently running is succession planning. It's basically halfway through and we're 34,000 views and 158 clicks. So if it keeps up, obviously that those types of numbers, that will overtake technology and be the top performing one, but we've yet to see that. So, but again, this is the data that we want to look at on the back end. So we're just not, putting ads out there and assuming they're working. So, would I run a labor ad again, probably put dollars towards it? At least in the 8-county pilot region, it did not react like we thought it would. Technology obviously had an increase, and then succession planning has the opportunity to be the most engaged one. Then on the flip side, we're like, okay, let's run just a general messaging ad. So not focused on any certain topic, any certain business solution, just kind of that feel good. You can see this, farm scenery, and this one beat all 3 of them. So this one's, I guess, not succession planning yet, but this one outperformed labor and technology, 68,000 views and 256 clicks. So little things like that help us understand, okay, what type of imagery should we put out there? What type of messaging? Because just like I alluded to a few slides ago, all I care about, I want people to click. Once they click, they get to the website, and then we can then start to retarget them and kind of bring them along the membership journey. So we'll continue to adjust on the fly and do A/B testing with Feather. But we learned some pretty interesting information just simply based off how many people are clicking and what does that ad specifically look like. The original DTM prospect mailer, this is not anything new. Just again, kind of rehashing the results from that. So that with 23,000 prospects, we had almost 49 QR code scans exactly, and 14 link visits, and 63 total engagements. So like I've alluded to, I've been very transparent. This one, I'm not gonna say it missed the mark, but it missed the mark. It didn't have the engagement that we thought it was going to. And it was a very well-designed piece, had good information. It just didn't have the engagement that we thought we were going to have. So as Paul said in his portion, for the second mailer that we're going to do and the final mailer, we revamped it. We made it much more simpler, kind of went back to kind of some of our original Farm Bureau values as far as what we do for the greater ag organization. We're a 100-year organization, and then still highlighting the value pillars, but not as maybe in this type of setup. So we will see. Obviously, I know obviously everybody has that information. As of yesterday, props to Lindsay and Nick. Your guys is already mailed. I think Nick, yours is already like mailboxes, which is very, very quick. So As long as it's mailed by June 21, so still got plenty of time. So as long as that's mailed by June 21, and then track those results in that spreadsheet, like Paul alluded to. Print, again, just re-highlighting these. I don't know if I've ever shared the scan numbers, but similar to the digital ads, we want to understand, what is engaging people from a print standpoint. So these ads ran multiple times in OCJ, Farm and Dairy, and Ohio's Electric Cooperative. And the top engagement ad was the American flag on the grain bin, and you can see it goes down from there. So the drone did not perform. Surprising, maybe, and we kind of thought that would be a little edgy, or it was edgy for us actually, but it did not perform, at least in these specific publications. And then even further, Farm and Dairy, out of all of these ads, had the least amount of scans. So that's how we're now adjusting. So we will not be spending any ad money with Farm and Dairy this year, and we'll be allocating those funds to other resources. So just simple things like this. Granted, more than 85 people saw this, like we get that. But if we're really measuring this on how many people we can get to our website, this is the data we want to look at. And something as simple as an American flag on a grain bin was much more engaging to people than these other two. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. And then Pandora, as I wrap up kind of some of the marketing stuff, the first two you guys have seen, I've talked about this. The third one's new because it just launched this month. So you can kind of see the evolution of, no pun intended, we'll start our first tagline there, but we've evolved our ads too. So started out the drone, that got 18 clicks. Then we evolved to cornfield, 135 clicks. And now we're at May. We went with a simple American flag in a field, and we're already at 114 clicks halfway through. So, could that totally fall off and we don't reach 135? Maybe. But just again, looking at this simple data, the only thing that changed, we changed the tagline, so value you can count on, and we adjusted what the imagery is. The 30-second spot that Ty cut, that's the same for all three of these. So people are still hearing that. And then those who choose to click, obviously, will be directed to the website. So at the end of this month, we'll see how this May campaign finishes out. But again, this will dictate future campaigns and what kind of imagery we want to use, what type of taglines we want to use. The 30-second spot, I think, is a great spot. I'm sure you've heard it. I don't have it right here, but it's just highlighting basically our value proposition. And then that encourages people to click and learn more about the organization. YouTube, I think last time I talked about this, we've done February, so that one was done. And then we just launched the May campaign. Brooke made some tweaks on the keywords, and you can see that helped drastically. So we're already at 66,000 impressions for May and 10,000 views. I don't have the exact understanding of what she tweaked, but whatever she tweaked worked. And again, this is new for us. So we didn't really know what to expect. Kind of continue to learn along the way. And then you can see, which I don't have for this meeting, but just a quick 15-second spot that runs on YouTube, focusing on a farming demographic in YouTube's database. And then call center, lastly, if I've shared this information already, I apologize, it'll be a repeat. I don't think I have. So some quick non-renew data. We always talk about the call center, all the great stuff, yeah, they're getting credit cards and people renewing. What's the flip side? What are we finding out from people who don't want to renew? So this is what this data outlines. So this is from January of 23 to March of 24. And these calculations are strictly based on live conversations. So voicemails, no answers are not factored into this. So they had to have a live conversation to be calculated in this data. And you can see what the top responses were. So 9.8%, they're not renewing because of the dues increase. No value, which those two kind of go hand in hand. No longer have nationwide insurance, which is always a frustrating one, of course, almost 4%. No longer farming. Our stance on issue 1 in August, that had some chatter back to the call center for 2.6%. And then the member was deceased at 2.5%. So, prior to the call center, this wasn't really data we had. We just knew people weren't renewing. We assumed we knew why. But this at least gives us somewhat of a very clear understanding of what they're telling the call center. We're going to have a much more in-depth look at this as well with Prop Fuel, which I've mentioned. So our next Prop Fuel campaign will be going out to non-renewed members Of course, there's gonna be a flavor of, we still want you to renew, we still want you to come back, here's why you should come back. But if they still choose not to, they'll be able to tell us why they did not renew. That'll be tracked in CRM, and we can then layer in with this data as well. So we'll continue to track some of these elements. Some of these obviously we can adjust, and learn from. Some of them are obviously a little more challenging, but it's at least good data that we have an understanding. So when we get the question, why are people not renewing? Well, here's some concepts we have, here's the feedback we're hearing, and here's what the data is showing. First, Ashley, yeah.
So if we're gonna track it this way, are we tracking it based off of notes, or is we're gonna have a drop down to be marking it? Because I know I've been getting return mail back in deceased and all that, well, deceased has it. But like dues increase and nationwide insurance stuff, is there gonna be a drop down to market that way for us at the county office?
Yeah, so from a CRM standpoint, which actually Tony just finalized late last week, there's gonna be a new area on the tracking tab, that has basically these options listed. Yeah, notes still, yes, leave notes. But then you're right. So once you get that feedback, the county office, you'll be able to track that in there as well. So more to come on that. Andy?
So like with the dues increase, are we able to like pull those, like to see who it is? And then like in the counties, maybe we can send out, like I have a draft email, like when they email us and say, I'm not renewing because of the dues increase, that I send them that explains the process of how we got to that like it was the members that decided it, that are farmers just like them. And then what their dues actually mean to us. Like, are we able to, once we know, like the no value, do we know exactly who that is? So that maybe we can send the
Yeah,
back.
so basically, all this is tracked through the interest field on their record. So when the call center on the back end gets this information and they put, because they have CRM access, whatever they choose, then that transfers over to their account. So
So like, how do we pull those lists?
we've never done it, but I know we can pull it. So I made a note, so I'll
Obviously.
pull it for the first time. And
That'd be something to be universal, though. I think that would be a bad idea. If you have a lot coming in like that, that no value increase membership, like if there is a uniform email sent out to that group of them. Or we know them, where they are.
It's a great thought, and it's a great thought. I mean, I know we send everything else out as far as people that said they're gonna renew haven't. People that have specific questions, but when these come up at the moment, it's not like I send these out telling you, hey, this person's not renewing because of this, but you bring up some good points on why we could.
I'm even thinking something as simple as like for the deceased, like maybe we send out a sympathy card that we have that just says, thanks for being a member, sorry to hear. Maybe that gets the spouse maybe would want to continue.
Yeah, it's a great thought. Joe?
I don't know if this is necessarily a question, but maybe this awareness, I've heard a little bit from COAs that they made the phone calls back, the call center said the person was interested, could you follow up with them? When they call them, the person they're calling is saying things like, that's not what I told them. Nobody's ever called me before. I don't know how widespread that is, but, it's a little bit of kind of what I've heard, so maybe just make you aware that.
Okay.
I-
Yeah, I've not heard that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but
Yeah. Be able to run a little bit down.
yeah, I mean, they record all their calls. It's one consent state. So I mean, worst case, I mean, if there is some,
I'll pass that along.
Yeah. Yep.
Where was there any question on previous
Say that again, Amanda.
review?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Based on these, and then as we get the tracking stuff. What all do you guys wanna know, like, how long ago? I mean, is that something when I-
yeah, I mean, we can drill down on, I mean, definitely obviously over the past year, I mean, that's when we've really been, calls have been tracking this since we had them, but, most relevant was in the past, 12 months, I would say, but we can work through that. Sure.
Can the interest field in the CRM be pulled in a row like you can with township and everything else?
Yeah.
They can, yeah.
So we can, whatever the response is, we can filter that interest and there's your vote.
Correct. It'd be a column added, yeah.
I know this might be more of a pain item, but when those people are like saying we're not renewing to the dues increase, we have the drop down right now where we can put like pay now or whatever, not contact, like. If that, when we click on that do not contact, if it automatically triggers one of those boxes for us to click it right then and there, be a heck of a lot simpler.
For do not contact.
Do not contact, well, I don't want any more contact, my dues increase. I'm not renewing whatever. When we click that, if it automatically populates that we can either check dues increase or no value, or no longer have to nationwide interest right there on the same tab.
I see what
You
you,
know what I mean?
I see what you mean.
Physically go to the interest tab or whatever to mark it. If it all populates right then and there, as soon as we click that, we have to click something in order for that.
I see what you mean. Yeah, it could be an enhancement. I don't have a yes or no, but I can talk to IT about it. Absolutely.
It's not, if they say they're not renewing because of X, Y, Z, I didn't think that do not contact, that, but they never bother me.
Yeah, these aren't, anybody that said, unless they specifically said, don't contact me.
Some of them do not, if they don't want to renew, they still say, please don't send me anything else, do not contact. I mean, they're marked that way. How long do they say do not contact?
Forever. Correct. I mean, if you mark somebody do not contact, they're do not contact forever.
So I don't know that it's.
Yeah. Any other good questions? Any other questions? I think